What happens when royalty collides with morning television in the most spectacular way possible? In just 36 seconds? A simple question triggers an explosion that sends shockwaves through the studio and leaves America's beloved morning show host standing her ground against an entitled guest who refuses to play by the rules. This is the story of the morning everything changed on Good Morning America. It starts like any other Tuesday morning. Lara Spencer sits across from Prince Harry in the bright studio. The lights are perfect. The cameras are rolling. Everything seems fine. But beneath the surface, tension is already building. And what comes next will leave everyone in that studio absolutely stunned. Lara opens with a warm smile. She's done this 1,000 times before. She's interviewed celebrities, politicians, athletes. She knows how to make people comfortable. She knows how to ask the tough questions without being confrontational. Today should be no different. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Lara says. Her voice is friendly, professional. We're so glad to have you here. Prince Harry nods. But something about his body language feels off. He's sitting back in his chair, arms crossed, not exactly the posture of someone excited to be there. Let's start with something our viewers are really curious about. Lara continues. You've been quite vocal lately about your feelings toward the press. Can you help us understand where that comes from? It's a fair question, a reasonable question, the kind of question any journalist would ask. But the response she gets is nothing like what anyone expected. Prince Harry's face changes immediately. His eyes narrow. His jaw tightens. That's exactly the problem, he says. His voice has an edge to it now. You people in the media, you think you have a right to know everything. You think you can just ask whatever you want. Lara keeps her composure. She's dealt with difficult guests before. Well, with respect, you did agree to come on the show to discuss your life and your work, she says calmly. Our viewers tune in because they're interested in hearing your perspective. Your viewers? Prince Harry repeats, and there's something mocking in his tone now. Your viewers don't care about me. They care about gossip. They care about drama, and you feed it to them. The studio crew exchanges glances. This is not going the way anyone planned. But Lara doesn't flinch. She leans forward slightly, maintaining eye contact. I think that's a bit unfair, she says. Her voice is still steady, still professional. We invited you here to have a genuine conversation. If there are topics you'd prefer not to discuss, that's absolutely fine. But I do think our audience deserves respect. That word, respect, it seems to trigger something in Prince Harry. He lets out a short, bitter laugh. Respect? He says. You want to talk about respect? Let me tell you about respect. Respect is not chasing someone down the street with cameras. Respect is not printing lies about someone's family. Respect is not invading every single moment of privacy a person has left. Lara nods slowly. And I agree with you on all of those points, she says. But I'm not sure what that has to do with our conversation today. We're not tabloid journalists. We're having a sit-down interview that you agreed to participate in. Because my people told me I had to, Prince Harry shoots back. They said it would be good for my image. They said it would help people understand me better. But you know what? I'm tired of performing. I'm tired of pretending. There's an uncomfortable silence in the studio. The crew doesn't know where to look, but Lara keeps her focus on her guest. She's not backing down. I appreciate your honesty, she says carefully, but I have to say, I'm a bit confused. If you didn't want to be here, why did you come? No one forced you to walk onto this set. Prince Harry shifts in his seat. You wouldn't understand. He mutters, you've never had to deal with the kind of pressure I'm under. You've never had your entire life picked apart by strangers. Lara's expression hardens just slightly, just enough to show that she's not going to let that comment slide. Actually, she says, her voice still measured but firm, I've been in the public eye for over 2 decades. I've had my personal life discussed on gossip sites. I've had rumors spread about me. I've dealt with criticism and scrutiny. So while our experiences may be different, please don't assume I have no understanding of what it's like to live under a microscope. Prince Harry looks taken aback. He clearly wasn't expecting pushback. That's not the same thing, he insists. You chose this career. You chose to be on television. I was born into my situation. I never had a choice. That's true, Lara acknowledges, and I can't imagine how difficult that must be. But you did have a choice about whether to come on this show today, and you made the choice to be here. So I'm asking, respectfully, that we try to have a productive conversation. The tension in the room is thick now. You could cut it with a knife. Prince Harry's face is flushed. His hands grip the armrests of his chair. "Productive?" he says, and his voice is rising now. "You want productive? Fine. Let's be productive. Let's talk about how your network, your colleagues, your entire industry profits off of people's pain. Let's talk about how you build careers by tearing others down." Lara's jaw tightens. She takes a breath. "I understand you're upset," she says, "and I understand you have frustrations with the media. But you're making some very serious accusations about me and my colleagues, and I don't think that's fair or accurate." "Of course you don't," Prince Harry says with a sneer. "Of course you're going to defend yourself. That's what you people do. You never take responsibility." "You people," Lara repeats quietly. "I'm going to stop you right there. I'm not you people. I am a professional journalist sitting here trying to have a conversation with you. And, quite frankly, I think you're being incredibly disrespectful right now." The room goes silent. No one expected Lara to call him out so directly, but she's right, and everyone knows it. Prince Harry's face turns even redder. "Disrespectful?" he sputters. "You're calling me disrespectful? Do you have any idea who you're talking to?" And there it is, the moment everyone will remember, the moment that changes everything. Lara doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. Her words are calm, clear, and devastating. "Yes," she says, "I'm talking to a guest on my show who agreed to be interviewed and is now being hostile and rude for no apparent reason. And I don't care what your title is or where you come from. On this set, we treat each other with basic courtesy and professionalism. If you can't do that, then perhaps this interview isn't going to work out." Prince Harry stands up abruptly. His chair scrapes against the floor. "Fine," he snaps. "I don't need this. I don't need to sit here and be lectured by some morning show host who thinks she's important." The insult hangs in the air. The crew is frozen, but Lara doesn't flinch. She stands up too, matching his energy but not his anger. "I never said I was important," she says calmly, "but I do expect to be treated with respect in my own workplace. And I expect my team to be treated with respect. You're welcome to leave, if that's too much to ask." Prince Harry looks around the studio as if waiting for someone to intervene, but no one does. His own handlers look uncomfortable, but they don't step in. He's on his own. "This is ridiculous," he mutters. "Absolutely ridiculous. You're all the same, every single one of you." "I'm sorry you feel that way," Lara says, and she sounds like she means it. Not sorry for herself, but genuinely disappointed that things have gone so wrong. "I had hoped we could have a meaningful conversation today. But if you're not willing to engage respectfully, then I think it's best if we end things here." Prince Harry rips off his microphone. The sound technician winces as the equipment hits the floor. "You don't get to dismiss me," Prince Harry says. His voice is shaking now, whether from anger or something else. It's hard to tell. "I'm the one who's leaving. This interview is over because I'm choosing to end it." Lara nods slowly. "Okay," she says simply, "that's your choice." And that seems to make him even angrier. He wanted a fight. He wanted her to argue, to beg him to stay, to acknowledge his importance. But she's giving him none of that. She's simply letting him go. "You'll regret this," Prince Harry says as he starts to walk off the set. "When this gets out, people will see what you're really like. They'll see how you treated me." Lara doesn't take the bait. "The cameras have been rolling the entire time," she says calmly. "So yes, people will see exactly what happened here, and I'm comfortable with that." Prince Harry stops in his tracks. He turns back to look at her, and for a moment, something like panic flashes across his face. He seems to realize, suddenly, that his behavior has been captured on tape, that there's a record of everything he just said and did. "You can't air this," he says, and now his voice has a desperate quality to it. "You can't show this interview." "Actually," Lara says, "we can. You signed the release forms before we started. But we'll make that decision in consultation with our producers and legal team." Prince Harry looks at his handlers. They're whispering urgently to each other, clearly trying to figure out how to handle this disaster. One of them approaches Lara. "Perhaps we could discuss this privately," the handler says in a low voice. "I'm sure we can work something out." But Lara shakes her head. "There's nothing to work out," she says. "Your client agreed to an interview. The interview didn't go well. That's not our fault. We asked fair questions and were met with hostility and insults. Our viewers will see that for themselves." Prince Harry is pacing now, running his hands through his hair. He looks nothing like the composed royal figure people are used to seeing. He looks rattled, unhinged even. "This is a setup," he says suddenly. "You planned this. You wanted me to lose my temper. You wanted to make me look bad." Lara's expression doesn't change. "We invited you here for an interview," she says. "That's all. How you chose to conduct yourself was entirely up to you." "No one is going to believe this," Prince Harry insists. "No one is going to take your side over mine." And that's when Lara says something that will echo long after this moment is over. "I'm not asking anyone to take sides," she says. "I'm simply doing my job. I asked you reasonable questions. You responded with accusations and insults. The footage will speak for itself. People can make up their own minds." Prince Harry opens his mouth to respond, but nothing comes out. He stands there, speechless, as the full weight of the situation seems to finally hit him. He's burned this bridge. He's made himself look bad on national television. And there's no way to undo it. His handlers are at his side now, gently guiding him toward the exit. He goes without further protests, but he keeps glancing back at Lara, as if he can't quite believe what just happened. As he disappears through the studio doors, the crew remains silent. Then, slowly, they start to move again. Cameras are turned off. Microphones are collected. The spell is broken. Lara sits back down in her chair. She takes a deep breath. One of the producers approaches her. "Are you okay?" the producer asks quietly. Lara nods. "I'm fine," she says. "That was unfortunate, but it is what it is." The producer looks concerned. "This is going to be huge," they say. "When people see this, then they'll see what happened." Lara interrupts gently. "We didn't do anything wrong. We invited a guest. We asked fair questions. He chose to respond the way he did. We're not going to apologize for that." And that's the thing about Lara Spencer. She knows who she is. She knows what she stands for. She's been in this business long enough to know that you can't control how other people behave. You can only control how you respond. And her response was calm, professional, and firm. She didn't stoop to his level. She didn't match his anger with anger of her own. She simply held the line. She maintained her standards. She protected her team and her workplace. That's what real professionalism looks like. That's what integrity looks like. Not yelling or fighting or trying to win some kind of battle. Just staying true to your values, even when someone is testing you. Back in the studio, crew members are starting to talk in hushed voices. Everyone is processing what just happened. It's not every day you witness something like that. It's not every day you see someone self-destruct so completely. "I can't believe he said that stuff," one camera operator whispers to another, about her not being important. "That was so out of line." And the whole "do you know who you're talking to" thing, another adds. Like, yeah, we know, but that doesn't mean you get to act however you want. They're right, of course. Title and status don't give anyone a free pass to be rude or disrespectful. Lara understood that. Her crew understood that. But Prince Harry, in that moment, seemed to think he was above basic courtesy. The makeup artist approaches Lara with a sympathetic look. "You handled that so well," she says. "I don't know how you stayed so calm." Lara smiles slightly. "Years of practice," she says. "And honestly, getting upset wouldn't have helped anything. It would have just made things worse." That's the mark of a true professional, knowing when to engage and when to simply stand firm, knowing that sometimes the best response is no response at all, just facts, just boundaries, just truth. The producer is on the phone now, presumably with higher-ups at the network. There will be meetings, of course, discussions about how to handle the footage, whether to air it, how to frame it, what to say about it, but that's for later. Right now, in this moment, the important thing is what happened in this studio. A guest came on a show expecting deference, expecting to be treated as special, as untouchable. And when he didn't get that, when he was held to the same standards as everyone else, he couldn't handle it. He lashed out. He insulted people who were just doing their jobs. And he walked away thinking he was in the right. But the cameras caught everything. Every eye roll, every sneer, every condescending comment. And more importantly, they caught Lara's grace under pressure, her refusal to be bullied or intimidated, her commitment to maintaining a respectful environment even when her guest had abandoned that principle entirely. As the studio empties out, Lara gathers her notes. She'll have other interviews today, other guests. The show goes on. That's the nature of live television. You can't dwell on what just happened because there's always something next. But everyone who was in that room will remember this morning. They'll remember the moment when a beloved morning show host stood up to an entitled guest and didn't back down. They'll remember the moment when someone with a fancy title learned that respect is a two-way street. Because here's the truth that Prince Harry seemed to miss. Respect isn't about where you come from or what your last name is. It's about how you treat people. It's about recognizing the humanity in others, even when you're frustrated or upset or feeling defensive. Lara Spencer understood that. She lived that. Even when someone was attacking her profession, her character, her worth, she didn't respond in kind. She simply held up a mirror and let him see his own behavior reflected back at him. And that, ultimately, is what made this confrontation so memorable. Not because there was yelling or drama or a big theatrical exit, but because one person maintained their dignity and composure while another person completely lost theirs. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. On one side, a host who remained professional even under attack. On the other side, a guest who unraveled the moment he was asked to engage in a normal conversation. That 36 seconds when Lara asked him to respect her and her team, when she calmly stated that his title didn't give him license to be rude, that was the turning point. That was the moment when everyone watching knew exactly how this was going to end. Because when you respond to a reasonable request with, "Do you know who you're talking to?" you've already lost the argument. You've already shown that you have nothing substantive to say. You're relying on status instead of reason, on intimidation instead of conversation. And Lara didn't let that work. She didn't shrink back. She didn't apologize for having standards. She just stood there, calm and clear, and made it obvious that this behavior was not going to fly. Not in her studio, not with her team. The crew is almost done packing up now. The lights are being turned off, the set is being cleared. In a few hours, another show will film here. Another group of guests will sit in those chairs. And most of them will behave like adults. They'll answer questions. They'll have conversations. They'll treat the people around them with basic decency, because that's what most people do. This morning was an exception, an outlier, a moment when someone forgot that being on television is a privilege, not a right. That being interviewed is an opportunity, not an obligation that everyone else should be grateful for. Prince. Harry walked onto that set thinking he was doing Good Morning America a favor by showing up. He walked off that set knowing he had made a terrible mistake. And in between those two moments was a masterclass in how to handle difficult people with grace and strength. Lara didn't need to yell. She didn't need to fight. She just needed to be herself. Professional, fair, unflappable. And that was more than enough to expose the emptiness of his outrage. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to play someone else's game. Refuse to get dragged into their drama. Refuse to lower yourself to their level. Just stand firm in who you are and what you believe, and let the chips fall where they may. That's what Lara Spencer did on this particular Tuesday morning. And that's why, when people talk about this interview, they'll remember her as the one who kept her cool, the one who maintained her integrity, the one who showed what real strength looks like. Not loudness, not aggression, not throwing around titles or making threats, just quiet confidence, just knowing your worth and refusing to let anyone diminish it. Just doing your job with dignity, even when someone is trying their best to provoke you into doing otherwise. The cameras are off now. The lights are dark. The studio is quiet. But what happened here will resonate far beyond these walls. It will become a talking point, a teaching moment, an example of how to handle yourself when someone is behaving badly. And at the center of it all is a morning show host who simply refused to be pushed around, who stood up for herself and her team without being aggressive or mean, who showed that you can be kind and firm at the same time, that you can be understanding and still hold people accountable. Prince Harry came to Good Morning America thinking he would control the narrative, thinking his status would protect him from tough questions or accountability. But he left, having learned a hard lesson about respect, professionalism, and the consequences of treating people poorly. Lara Spencer, meanwhile, went on with her day. Because that's what professionals do. They don't dwell on drama. They don't seek revenge or hold grudges. They just keep doing their jobs with excellence and integrity, knowing that their work speaks for itself. In those 36 seconds, everything changed. A simple request for mutual respect became a line in the sand, a moment of truth, a test of character. And everyone saw exactly who passed that test and who failed it spectacularly. This is what happens when entitlement meets professionalism. When someone who expects special treatment encounters someone who treats everyone equally. When drama crashes into dignity and dignity wins every single time. The story ends where it began. In a television studio, with cameras and lights and people just trying to do their jobs. But what happened in between will be remembered as the moment when a morning show host reminded the world that respect isn't about titles or fame or status. It's about how we treat each other, especially when no one is forcing us to be decent human beings. Lara Spencer knew that. She lived that. And when tested, she proved it beyond any doubt. That's the real story of this morning, not the tantrum or the insults or the dramatic exit, but the quiet strength of someone who knows who they are and refuses to compromise that for anyone.